quick introduction. Joey Connect, one of the senior leaders at a company called Proteus. I've been with this cast of characters for a long time, 24 years, very successful group. We have multiple product lines. Um, the one we're talking about today is Engage, but I'm not going to be too much in the product just at the end. What today is more about, and I'm kind of excited about, is time to value metrics. As a leader myself, I'm very excited about performance management and helping others, obviously, with their organization, um, especially in onboarding. We're going to walk through here today, kind of unlocking the secrets of TTV, and also some threats related to TTV, help you unlock why maybe your time to value is not high or fast enough. And also going to kind of talk about some natural changes or environmental changes that are going on that are making this a pretty critical piece if you're a leader inside really the organization in general, but obviously onboarding handoff, those kinds of ecosystems. So look forward to unpacking this with everybody here today. Again, some housekeeping notes. If you have any questions, please put that in the comments and I'll get back to you accordingly. I will be sharing out a recap of this, of course, and typically some links to additional resources. Some of the people signed up have been on webinars before. If you're new to Proteus and to us, our style is like this, very candid, very educational. Of course, I'll show you at the end how our platform does this world class for clients and how we know all of this. But I really hope of this and see this more as rising tide moves all ships. And so look forward to helping. Hopefully you walk away with a couple of nuggets of knowledge to drive value for your teams. Literally this afternoon, you could implement this. So I appreciate everybody's time. Let's get started. So as I mentioned, Joey Connect, senior leader with Proteus. Today's topic, obviously, we're talking about optimizing time to value for specifically, obviously, the use case in onboarding. Some of you, as I looked at kind of our attendee list today, varying industries, some in software, some in professional services, some in projects. These concepts really carry over across all of them, and I'll try to share some nuggets of knowledge of each, but obviously look forward to sharing some of the elements. So let's get into it. So, or not, I click a button and nothing happens. All right, so obviously with a kind of a generalized presentation, sometimes people on these webinars or are in different phases of your career or areas of interest related to this, and you might not even know when I've been saying TTV what it meant. So what is time to value? And so the interesting thing here around time to value is I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I'll let you read it for yourself and you might already conceptually have an idea. I think for everybody on this call today, the differentiation is what is value. And so in your line of work or what you're selling or deploying, right? Obviously, there can be different elements of value. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because it doesn't necessarily mean you're done with the onboarding or done with the complete 3-stage rollout, or you're not completely done with the project. What it also is working in a mutual way with your client to identify key value points and making sure you're getting to them as fast as humanly possible. Okay, so as you think about this, the low-hanging fruit might be if you are a software company and you have a SaaS product, your time to value might be obviously getting that up live, but that's just really the start. And so we'll kind of go through this in kind of different elements, plus there's just some business changes that greatly affect what time to value actually means for you. So we're gonna penetrate through this a little bit more, but high level time to value. So you obviously are in the business, you have some sort of product, service, project, whatever it might be. You're obviously trying to measure obviously that time to value, and there's a lot of reasons why this is extremely important nowadays. Obviously it's been, but now it's actually you're capable of doing it. Plus, there's a lot of pretty substantial revenue decline if you're not good at this. And I'll walk through a little bit about that also. So time to value topic today. So why does it matter? So this is kind of the, well, why should I give a crap, Joey? How long it takes us to onboard a client or get them to value. It's simply not just onboarding them. And I think that's kind of the tricky poo here. It's where they're starting to see value. Um, and that's something obviously for each one of you is a little bit different, but I'll walk through the one I really gonna kind of hammer down in the most because customer satisfaction obviously seems to make sense. They're starting to see value. Of course, retention and adoption, the faster you're able to demonstrate value, people are more excited about it, right? Pretty interesting. But kind of if I asked you on the street or if we were having a beer tonight, you'd say, yeah, Joe, I would expect that, right? The last two is kind of where the rubber starts to hit the road for a lot of clients. Um, it's upsells and cross-selling, whether that's software or additional projects, the actual amount of revenue you can capture within specified quarter, half year, and year dramatically changes on your speed here and time to value because they're starting to see more value. They'll consume more of the project and or product at that time. So you can kind of be lulled into, well, we're doing fine onboarding, but what if you could squeak out another 10 clients a month or another 10 clients a week or another 10 clients a quarter or more? Obviously, you know how to do your math, start to figure that out. That substantially hits the bottom line for certain types of client types where your LTV, long-term value of your client, might be anywhere from 3 to 5x that number. So that's as an onboarding leader, this is pretty important to know your math and kind of these debits and credits because it helps justify additional investments in team, other investments maybe in software or other things that you might be doing, resources in general, because the actual value creation your team is creating is quite substantial. The last one to think about here is the business model. So how I kind of like to talk about this is shocker alert, I'm 48, not 24. I know by the camera it kind of might come across that way, but I am, thank you, 48. Okay. And being 48 and predominantly been in SaaS world my entire last 30 years, 20, 25 years, whatever. Kind of the, in my use case, of course, software company, there's been a big kind of shift in any service. This is professional services, projects, software, whatever. Used to sign pretty mega deals, right? Used to sign big contracts, multi-year deals, all sorts of longer term, all elements, which kind of, in essence, helped you manage basically time to value because you had time, right? And but now there's a tremendous amount of business models that are out there and expectations from customers that they want to do tire kicking, right? So if you're in a service that is software or some kind of level, you're going to get some level of tire kicking where they're not going to deploy the entire platform, right? If you're a professional services group or doing projects or other things, they're going to dip their toe with you first to try to see and build that trust and relationship and see if you can actually deliver, right? And so the entire, in many industries, many, almost all, not one, but literally, tire kicking is now a big piece. So onboarding is so important to that because they need to see the value quickly, or they're going to go window shopping at other solutions or other providers because their financial commitment to you is next to nil, and they're like, I don't care, I'll move on. So you really got to execute these things extremely well, or your churn number during onboarding or within that 6 month contract 1 year is going to be extremely high. I've done some other webinars on onboarding is kind of a epicenter of churn, and it's not that the client actually leaves today, it's that you don't have a chance of ever renewing them. And again, as a onboarding leader, another big consideration you have to look at today is your CAC. And so your CAC pressure is really driving a lot of this also. So that's your customer acquisition cost. And so for many of you, especially non-small software like, $20 a month software, those kinds of things. If you're professional services, project-based, I mean, literally, we have clients in all categories. And what happens is when you actually start to figure out how much money it costs your organization to get that new client, you're frequently not even covering that in your first year contract, or it's close. The margins are really thin. So the onboarding has to be successful. They got to get up and using it, and you got to start cross-selling and upselling for the actual relationship to be valuable to your group, right? And then the last but not least in this business model kind of world or challenge is many of your businesses have become consumption based. And this is on all levels, from small to medium sized to large sized companies, where you're only getting paid, your company, you guys sell your product solution to the client, but the only way you're getting paid is as they are using your tool, product, whatever it is, to provide services. You're getting transactional revenue off of that, right? You're getting splits, you're getting percentages. So you actually are only making money when they're actually leveraging the platform and generating, obviously, whatever it is, growth. So you can see in all of these business models, this is extremely, extremely important from that perspective of a successful time to value, because you want that to be obviously as short as humanly possible, because on the flip side, you're generating revenue and new opportunities for you, right? Whether it's splits, cross-sell, upsell, more modules, whatever it might be. There's lots of different things, obviously, as you look at your enterprise, right? So the concept of time to value gets thrown around a lot, and frequently everybody just thinks it's about like, hey, let's get this thing the shortest as possible. Yes, it is, but it has to be they're getting value, right? You can't forget the V, time to value. Like, so it's important that they're getting value and they're using it. And what I'm talking about here is, why does this matter to your organization? Because it really starts to multiply out as you're doing projects or deployments or elements of that nature. But there are a ton of threats to this, right? There are, like, I'm going to share with you kind of 9-ish, 8.5-ish, 9-ish, whatever. Let me go with it. But I think it's 9. Basically, kind of things that are kind of the core reasons why your TTV struggles, why your time to value is struggling, or things are taking way longer than you want them to take. And again, the why you should care about that is everything that's on the screen. And that's mission critical, obviously, to your team's growth, your company's growth, and just in general, you should care, right? If that's why you're here. So why does this matter to you? So again, everybody on this call, varying levels. The other complexity that is thrown into this, so you got TTV, you're only making money once it's live and they're seeing value. You don't want to lose them. Da, 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 da. The other thing is, it's Camp Rudamuck out there, right? And I literally have this slide, I think, in almost every webinar I've ever done, because this is such a big driving factor to failure. In this use case of, obviously, TTV, which is the world and how B2B transactions. When I talk about this stuff, I'm primarily talking about B2B transactions, or super high value, like we're in private jets and that kind of space. Other things that are high dollar experiences or investments, those are equally as complex from a B2C perspective. But majority of what I'm talking about here is kind of traditional B2B kind of thing. So what it is it used to be, again, going back to my ageism of myself at 48, I used to be able to sell deals with 2 people in the room, no problem. We'll get it going, right? Like, for a high dollar amount, $1 million or more, right? Not a problem. Many of you on this call probably remember those days. Now everything is committee. It's not only committee during the purchasing process, so that creates a very dangerous handoff for you guys, like HO, handoff of the client to onboarding and all of that, which is, I'll get to how that's a threat to your TTV. And then, of course, just the onboarding process itself and getting it going is all basically many to many relationships, which, you know, where I'm going with that. The more people that have to be involved, the threat to TTV is obviously enhanced, because you're not just dealing one. Your communication and collaboration has to be to many. There's a lot of failure points that get injected into this entire thing, so you can see how your time to value can be greatly affected, especially with the layering of the environment here. And like this only gets worse, as like Biggie Small said, more money, more problems. Same thing. You can just correlate this pretty directly to your contract value. So some of you on this call, 10,000, 100,000, 2.5 million, that's going to be a factor to this. The other element, of course, is going to be your average sales cycle. So many clients of ours are 3-month sales cycles, 3 months onboarding or 1 month onboarding, that zone. Then you got cats that you've been selling to them for 2.5 years because it's a government deal or something extremely complex. That's equally, very complex on the HO and the onboarding. So again, these are all factors, and leverage those accordingly. So with the environment like this, the reasons why TTV is so important to you, as I just alluded to, the next steps, what I want to help you do, and this is kind of where the homework comes in, because again, we look at these things as we have learned all of this over the years because of our great clients. When we first started this product, we signed like 15 clients just the screenshots. Like we didn't even have a product, but it was such a problem. The clients were like, yeah, Joe and our team, we'll help you out, right? So we've learned this from all of our clients, obviously many now. But then we're also continuously refining these as the environmental shifts, agency, different things happening as far as different verticals and stuff of that nature. But ultimately, what I'm trying to give you here is kind of a way for you to look at your environment, maybe identify the root causes of your TTV problems, right? So we always joke at our company that it's the old adage of Eastern and Western medicine. Western medicine, you know, um, we just cover up the pain instead of solving the root problem, and Eastern medicine is herbals, right, and kind of solving it from the core problem. That's what we try to share around here. Is we don't just sham wow something and say, guess what, it's fixed. What we're really trying to do in all of our webinars is to take concepts we know that are really the driving force around problems and frustrations. And of course, those all walk back to money, and share what we've learned. And then, of course, yeah, we do have a platform, obviously, that is world class at this and a whole process and methodology. But ultimately, what this allows you to do is start to identify maybe things within your group immediately that can move the lever very, very quickly too. That's the great thing about this. I don't want to sound negative, but the positivity of this is you can make pretty big headway with some shakeups. So the first, and I'll kind of go through, there's 2 slides here. There are 9 of these. There's obviously way more. I just try to give a reasonable amount to you. I mean, everybody's a little bit different, but I'll kind of summarize. The first one is the lack of clear onboarding goals. So this is like the easiest one right out the gate. You can change. You must be using some sort of like mutual plan concept, and divvying out the work, but doing that mutually during the onboarding process. I'm like I can't be any more of a proponent of mutual plans and checklist systems and doing it mutually though. I've done presentations on pre-mortems, which is like predicting failure. Watch that video, watch our resources on it. Like super clear. And sometimes it's just because your company or your projects or what you're doing just hasn't needed a formal onboarding process, and you're kind of doing it, but not doing it, right? And so that's mission critical, because obviously for TTV, you want to be measuring time investment during the onboarding, like how much time is it taking individuals to identify areas of improvement. So you kind of have to wrap this around a goal and a process, right? So right out the gate, is mission critical, and that kind of inks into or inks in ekes into slow implementation process. Like I'm sure you've been involved in them, like people like you're buying a software or something for your company, and it's like it's loose goose. It's very programmatic, loose goose, not real specific. It just kind of, we're going to mosey through this and it's going to take that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And so we have found repeatedly that clear direction, mutual accountability, really clearly defining things helps this TTV obviously dramatically. Ineffective communication, we kind of talked about that already. How many cats do you have to herd to make this happen? and this is inverse also. This is when you're deploying things or your project involves a lot of people, it's setting those clear expectations with all the individuals to keep everything moving forward, mission critical, and that all has to be obviously effectively communicated, centralized to do that. A lot of times it's okay when you're starting out to have like a one size fits all kind of onboarding process. Cool, get it. But as you start to increment in what we'd normally see, just kind of mathematically over thousands and thousands of things we're involved with, 70% is typically standardized, 80%, maybe 70, 80. You're going to have that 20, 30% that needs to be perceived customizable based on the client's environment, type of industry they're in, maybe what platforms they're leveraging. So you have to have this bespoke approach, but not bespoke heavy, right? You can't make a Bugatti every single time because it's going to cost you too much to do that, right? So you have to have kind of an environment where you can kind of be perceived customized, but you can't just flow everybody through the same way because they're not going to recognize the value the same way. You have to identify. So many times we have heard that, say you buy a solution and you really bought that solution or project to solve this problem, and you're wasting all your time talking about other stuff and not actually solving your problem, right? Huge frustration to the client, right? Or, on either side. Lack of customer engagement. This goes back to, my I'll pound the word mutual. Like everything moves fast, and you're going to make more money. All the things come down to that. I already kind of alluded a little bit to this next one, the customer pain points. Huge, obviously, because a lot of times whatever service offering you have, or if it's a product or whatever it might be, you might be spending a whole lot of time on this side of it when really they really cared the most about this. And so can we phase that deployment to address that first so you get quick wins? Like that's the main thing here. We call them bleeding points. I also call them red dot items. And so when we're working with clients, onboarding them into our product Engage, they might want to do 4 to 6 different onboarding experiences for enterprise or their healthcare vertical, their fintech, whatever it is. But we obviously step back and say to them, which one is struggling the most right now? Where can we provide the greatest amount of value right now? And you want us to help with handoffs and onboarding? Great, we're going to deploy for that. So we have super quick wins. And then from there, obviously being able to carry that out and complete out all the other things. So again, the time to value concept, you need to be a little bit strategic around your products and services, obviously, which ties back to what I was talking about earlier. Integrations, if you have to do any integrations, any kind of technical stuff, this is like a major red dot item because, yeah, so many times it wasn't teed up for success. So say whatever you're doing needs internal at the client's technical resources. Some of you are probably chuckling right now or frowning because you know what I'm about to say. It's like it wasn't pre-aligned. It wasn't part of the early steps of the kickoff of the client. Like those items need to be in the literally the discovery meeting, the initial meeting, laying out a mutual plan and making sure you're securing the resources, the people, the time, talent, and treasure of your clients and getting that into the plan immediately. So many of these things are drug out until later stages and it just elongates the TTV substantially. You need to be working in a multi-thread onboarding environment, multiple tentacles. Everything has to be going at the same time. Start working with that technical deployment. Start working with, obviously, some compliance people probably at many of your clients, right? Just you got to be multi-threading and tracking all these people and working against a common goal, which again, I've expressed many times, but it's got to flush that out very early, and of course, communication and collaboration often. Kind of switching up a little bit. Number 8 in this journey is the weak internal handoff process. So this is kind of I don't know how to frame it, but like no one wants to talk about it, and everybody thinks they do it well, but nobody involved in it thinks it's done well. Do you guys know what like that's honestly how most of the time that comes across. I'm not saying every firm, obviously, but it's hilarious. Like people, and they just suck at handing off. And a lot of that is because the relationship might have took X period of time. There isn't a centralized place of the information, the why, the relationships haven't been bridged, all these kinds of things, which can really, really cause major hiccups at the beginning, which of course you lose trust, and it also dramatically affects your TTV. Um, and again, if you're not using a process, because again, as you can tell, I like kind of storytelling, or like we frequently say Kia, Camry, Cadillac, right? And so Kia, Camry, Cadillac. And Kia, this is again, Kias are great now. So I don't know, you can adjust the cars accordingly. But originally, Kia, Camry, Cadillac was basically to express we don't have to boil the ocean right now. We need to boil a pot of water and do it really, really well. And so, but you can only do that if you have repeatable processes, a way to measure all of this stuff to incrementally improve everything that you're doing for your onboarding processes. And so you got to have, obviously, to improve your TTV, you got to have levers and visibility as to what's going on so that you can continuously improve. Because if you should see problems, you should see areas of opportunity. This is also extremely important to any growth company on this call, or small business. Like, so we frequently have clients of ours that are, private equity backed, right? And so they're going from X to 14X. And so they need an environment that can handle that scale. It can handle that reproducibility. You also want to be able to hire junior talent who look like super senior talent. And so if you have a good process and model in place, then they can still execute great TTV, even though they might be relatively new to your organization. Of course, unfortunately, some companies are struggling and they're reducing some of their talent. Obviously, infrastructure to help with TTV helps a smaller team maybe do as much as the larger team. So there's a couple of factors there, but these are very important kind of elements as you self audit yourself. Speaking of audits, we have a lot of audits on our website that are very popular, extremely popular, around looking at different elements of your processes to really. I mean, it's just like any athlete. You want to be continuously training and improving and really knocking this out of the park. And instead of winning the game, what you win is revenue and resources for yourself, right? And that's extremely important. So fundamentally, I have to obviously tie this into, you're like, okay, Joe, I agree. These are all critical areas, but you just got to be equipping yourself for success. And and it's both sides of the equation, because this is a two-person dance. And so what I like to show is just very high level. Again, I'm not doing a demo here today. Don't want to, and just want to share with you what I know literally transforms teams' revenue and success rates and TTV. So I think many of you probably know, we are a company, obviously. We have a product called Engage. Our product creates customer-specific workspaces for different phases of the relationship. From we're used in complex sales, handoff, onboarding, and CS, like cross-sell, upsell, those kinds of things, account growth, those kinds of, and how we do that is through these secure workspaces. And so what you're seeing on the screen here is actually a workspace for a fake company called Falcon. That's our mascot. But ultimately, one of the things that, as we were going through those 9 critical points of origination of failure, a lot of it comes through, again, communication and collaboration, data sharing, right? Efficient ways of doing that, a consistent and repeatable process, right? Ways to make it easy for literally 7 to 20 people to be able to be on the same page consistently about the common goal, which is to do this project, launch X, whatever it is, right? How we do that, one of our driving engines is obviously having centralized workspaces like you see here. We also have a gigantic checklist and mutual plan engine, which you see here, which is how you establish that common language between you and the client. And then it also powers many automations to keep everybody on track, whether that's internally on your team side or obviously externally on the client side, and then subtasks and all sorts of ways to help push and drive all of those internal people in your new client's environment to optimization. And so we do all of this inside environments like this, but really the core takeaway here is to understand creating repeatable processes. Obviously, they can be templated here, and then mutually working with the client to establish those goals, those dates, those responsibilities, and then deploying it out, continuously measuring and monitoring, and moving the project forward at a predictable base, right? And so you can see here, just clicking into one item, you're going to have what the purpose is. You might have the kickoff meeting. You have all the different to-dos for different people, internally or externally, ways to track all of this. Ultimately, you know every single minute of the day for every single onboarding you're working on where things are at. And that's real critical. Whatever you do walking away from here today is get the people centralized, get them on a common roadmap of execution that is measurable, visible, repeatable. Obviously, we do a ton of data collection, files, forms, you name it, all sorts of data cleansing processes too, because that's another huge kind of kerfuffle there in onboarding. But ultimately, we do that all in one centralized environment so you can continuously improve. So I ask you to take away, and of course, I'll be sharing this back out with you, the 9 kind of underlying concepts, and really judge yourself in an effective way of like, we could do this way better. Well, think as you chop off every 1 day, 2 days, 8 days. Obviously, we do a ton of automation, so it allows your team to do we see about 30% efficiency to be candid. So pretty substantial. It's like 1 free onboarder for every 4, like pretty substantial. And more importantly, if you're a leader, you're getting consistency and visibility on everything that you're wanting. So I share that just because I have to, because it works and it could solve a ton of problems for you. But as far as the webinar, oops, sorry, team. That's my wife and my dog and my son. But I will pepper this out. Whoops, I will pepper this out a little bit. Our next webinar is on the 25th, and that's a follow-up, another 7 on an audit. So if you're interested in more auditing concepts, very successful. We have some really good resources on that. I encourage you to sign up for that. And then I will pull this out, and people take advantage of this all the time. Again, leading with our kind of educational mindset that we do. When I follow up with everybody today, I'll have my calendar in there for just a one-on-one consultation. It's not a sale, literally. You're just going to tell me what your problem is, what's your red dot item, what areas do you have questions? Because a lot of you can be unique in how you're applying it, but ultimately, and then I share what we're doing, and if it makes sense, it makes sense. But it's definitely not a high pressure sale. Literally is with me, and so obviously open to discussing any challenges you might be having. Of course, those are all of our additional resources. But from a 30,000 foot, the kind of the takeaway on all of this is TTV is, of course, kind of, it feels like a metric. It is clearly, right? It feels like it's about time. It is. But what it's really about is TTV. The most important word in that is value. And so, how do you get to value quickly, but a nice journey to that value? And then, how do you continuously expand that value? In essence, build that recipe for yourself. If any of you have watched Shark Tank, many of you have. It's the difference between baking cakes in your kitchen, then baking cakes in your garage, and then somebody on the Shark Tank is going to ask you, are you ready to go to a commercial kitchen, right? And that incremental jump between baking in your house to your garage to a co-packer, right, is what we help a lot of our clients do. It's because we just have proven processes, modules, all sorts of things, but it's really to address that TTV and doing it in a repeatable way. So again, appreciate the time, appreciate your interest. Please check out, we got tons more resources left and right. I'll go through the questions and follow up with anybody. But again, I appreciate the time and look forward to seeing you at another Proteus webinar. Thanks, everybody.